What if I told you that every silent battle, every uncelebrated tear, and every invisible wound you've carried was seen, cherished, and recorded by Jesus himself, because your redemption is not only coming, it has already begun. There is no coincidence in your arrival here. This very moment has been divinely orchestrated by Jesus, who has walked with you through every shadow, every storm, and every season where your soul felt abandoned by the world but held tightly by his love. Stop for a second, pause the noise, close your eyes, and feel this truth wash over you like holy rain. The tiredness in your bones is not failure, it's the sacred stillness before the mighty roar of your breakthrough, a calm carved out by Christ before your divine restoration erupts. You thought you were breaking, falling apart into fragments, but in the eyes of Jesus, you were never broken. You were being rebuilt, reshaped, and reforged in holy fire, stripped of illusions and distractions so that your soul could rise in its purest, truest form. Every betrayal you survived, every heartache you carried without a witness, every step you forced forward while the world stood still, none of it was wasted. Jesus saw it all. He collected your pain like priceless pearls and deposited them in the heavenly vault of purpose. And now the divine exchange is near. What the world saw as loss, heaven saw as legacy. They told you that you were losing, that you were falling behind, that your path made no sense. But Jesus knew and still knows that you were never chasing the world's timeline. You were investing in eternity. This isn't just a message you're hearing, it's a sacred activation straight from the heart of Jesus. A divine ignition to wake the sleeping parts of your spirit and remind you that the price you paid was never for nothing. He is now showing you the receipt of your spiritual perseverance. Heaven is realigning your reality to mirror the truth of your divine worth. Let this moment imprint itself upon your spirit, because this isn't entertainment, it's transformation. Jesus is not asking you to believe in some far-off promise. He is inviting you to feel the shift already happening in the depths of your being. And when you open your heart, even just slightly, to receive it, everything begins to change. Let your spirit be soaked in this holy frequency. Don't just watch, let it move through you. Like this video to mark the moment your spirit said yes to heaven's promise. Subscribe to align with a tribe of awakened hearts chosen by Christ to carry light through darkness. Comment "Divine Rise" as a prophetic declaration that your soul is ready to step into the fullness of what has always belonged to you. Now begins Chapter 1. The sacred endurance of the hidden warrior. You have been running, not in stadiums where crowds cheer, but through dimensions invisible to human eyes, in silence, with only Jesus as your witness. While others were chasing goals that would soon fade, you were engaged in an eternal race, a heavenly marathon mapped out by Jesus long before your birth. This wasn't a test of strength but of spirit, not a race against others but a return to yourself. Every time you chose truth over comfort, compassion over revenge, or silence over reaction, you took another lap on the sacred path. Every time you stood back up when you were knocked down by forces that had no face and no name, Jesus marked your progress in heaven's book. These weren't failures. These were spiritual victories sealed with divine ink. The solitude you endured was never a punishment. It was Jesus drawing you away from the world's noise so you could finally hear the sacred song of your own soul in harmony with his voice. That silence wasn't absence, it was preparation. It tuned you into the divine rhythm, stripped away the dust of societal lies, and polished your inner vision until you could feel truth vibrating in your bones. You started to sense what was real and what was false before words were ever spoken. You began to detect the storm in the spirit before clouds gathered in the sky. Jesus wasn't just walking with you. He was transforming you, moment by moment, into someone who sees with eternal eyes and hears the whisper of heaven louder than the roar of doubt. The weariness you carry isn't just from the journey. It's from the resistance of running this spiritual marathon while living in a world that doesn't even acknowledge its existence. People saw you move slowly and called it weakness. They saw you isolate and called it brokenness. But Jesus saw your invisible load, your holy burden, and the unseen forces you pressed against. You were pushing not only through your own pain, but also through the weight of generational chains, the pull of past identities, and the thick gravity of a world deeply asleep. Every breath you took was a victory. Every morning you rose when your soul begged to stay in bed was a declaration that your spirit was not defeated, only refining. And now, with heaven standing at attention and Jesus holding out his hand, the winds are beginning to shift. The path ahead is clearing. The veil is lifting. And what you felt for so long in faith is about to manifest in your sight. You are not who they said you were. You are who Jesus always knew you would become. Hold this truth close. Let it flood you. Play this message over and over, not as background noise, but as a living, breathing reminder of what Jesus has brought you through and where he is now taking you. Your time has come. Your rise is here. Your spirit is ready. And Jesus is leading the way. There comes a moment in every soul's sacred timeline when moving forward feels less like a choice and more like a silent revolution from within. And my beloved, that moment was not random, because Jesus was guiding your every breath through that storm, even when your feet trembled on the edge of despair. Each time your body ached without a reason, each time fatigue wrapped itself around your bones like chains, each time rest became not just desired but necessary for survival, it wasn't weakness, and it surely wasn't a breakdown. It was Jesus pressing your spirit through fire, reshaping you from within, preparing you through a divine compression into something unshakable, something eternal, something only heaven could authorize. A soul forged in His name, indestructible and radiant. The symptoms you endured were not of earthly sickness. They were heavenly signatures, evidence that your spirit was being purified under divine pressure, that your heart was being restructured to carry the weight of divine purpose. Jesus was not punishing you. He was building in you a fortress no storm could touch, a strength so pure it didn't roar, it didn't boast, it simply held firm when everything else around it crumbled. This strength didn't arrive with applause, nor did it declare itself with noise. It emerged quietly, like a sunrise through the cracks of your brokenness. It showed up when you finally whispered, "Enough," to what had drained you for years, not with rage but with resolve. It rose in that sacred tear that slid down your face, not in sorrow, but in awe at the depth of resilience Jesus had placed inside you. You may have looked around at others, wondering why their road felt smoother, why their journey seemed void of struggle. But understand this deeply: Jesus didn't call you to an ordinary walk, He summoned you to an extraordinary climb. While others walked predictable paths seeking praise and temporary crowns, you were asked to climb a steep, unseen mountain in the midnight of your soul, with only His voice echoing in the silence to keep you going. Theirs is a path paved by ego. Yours is a journey of holy transformation. While their rewards are made of fading noise, yours is carved in eternity, a crown of divine light, a seat at the banquet of spiritual royalty where Jesus Himself honors your perseverance. You were never given a map. There were no glowing signs, no guiding hands from the crowd, only the sacred fire that burned quietly in your soul, placed there by Jesus long before you ever knew why you were suffering. That fire never died. And when you had nothing left, not even tears, that fire whispered, "You were made for this." This was never about reaching a mountaintop for the sake of arriving. This was about becoming a vessel so strong in faith, so deeply aligned with Jesus, that no storm could ever pull you under again. You weren't just running towards something, you were becoming something eternal in the process. There were no borrowed victories in your story. No one handed you their light. Jesus made you dig through the cold, hard earth of your circumstances to find your own flame. You became your own miracle. You became your own breakthrough. And in the darkness, when even hope felt silent, Jesus met you there, not to carry you away from it, but to awaken you to the divine power that had always lived inside of you. You reached into the depths of spiritual exhaustion and found a river of eternal strength flowing from a well that only Jesus could have placed there. A source that doesn't run dry, that doesn't fade, that doesn't need validation from the outside world. And now, the divine race that shaped you is approaching its sacred conclusion. But let me be clear, the finish line is not an end, it's a beginning. It's not a sigh of relief, it's a holy crowning. Jesus didn't bring you this far for you to rest, He brought you to rise. Those who once mocked your pace, who laughed at your detours, who mistook your silence for weakness, they will now witness a glory they cannot explain. They will stand stunned as you arrive, cloaked in a radiance they never believed was possible. Your arrival will confuse them, not because of where you ended up, but because of how you endured. They'll ask how you made it, not knowing that the very weight they pitted was the weapon Jesus used to awaken your royalty. You'll begin to feel it now, in your bones, in your breath, in your cells, this shift that cannot be denied. That lingering fatigue, that shadow of weariness, it will start to vanish, replaced by a rising energy so clean, so vibrant, so unfamiliar that it will feel like resurrection. That is Jesus clearing the resistance. That is heaven removing the veil. That is the divine signal that the marathon has served its purpose. No longer are you battling the gravity of a world that tried to suppress your calling. You are now flowing with the energy of your own divine creation. You're not just surviving, you are soaring. You're not just ending a journey, you are stepping into the reality Jesus designed specifically for you. And as you take each next step, feel this truth deeply. Jesus is not only with you, He is the reason you are now untouchable. The strength you carry, the light you radiate, the peace you embody, none of it is borrowed. It was born in you through fire, through silence, through storms, and through Jesus. When Jesus walked you through the darkest hours of your life, it wasn't simply to toughen you, it was to crown you with spiritual authority, forged through fire, sharpened through suffering, and purified through every tear you cried when no one else saw your pain. He wasn't preparing you to merely survive, he was preparing you to reign. Each moment that tried to break you, every trial that bruised your heart and left you questioning your worth, was actually a holy battleground where Jesus stood beside you as your commander, training your spirit like a warrior in the making. It wasn't weakness, it was preparation. It wasn't punishment, it was the sacred molding of your destiny. While the world told you to hide the remnants of your pain, to conceal your brokenness behind filters and smiles, Jesus was pointing to those scars and whispering, "These are not marks of shame, they are badges of victory, and I wear every one of them with you." He calls them your divine receipts, evidence of every spiritual transaction where you gave pain and received wisdom in return. You were taught to believe that your broken places were the end of your story. But Jesus, in his infinite compassion, turned every crack in your soul into a window for his light to pour through. Those wounds became the currency through which heaven stamped your soul as chosen, as holy, as unstoppable. Every scar on your heart tells a sacred story, a testimony of endurance, a record of spiritual evolution, a miracle wrapped in silence. When you were betrayed, Jesus didn't just watch silently, he used that betrayal to give you X-ray vision of the soul. Now you discern lies before they're even spoken. You sense false intentions from a breath away. That pain was your divine training for truth. Jesus didn't let loneliness consume you, he used it as a crucible. In the silence where no one answered your cries, he was crafting a divine relationship between your soul and his presence. In those moments, you learned how to dance with yourself in the dark, to love your own spirit fiercely, to hear the voice of Jesus louder than any crowd. That was never isolation, it was initiation. You once believed that failure in front of others was the ultimate humiliation. But Jesus knew it was your holy shedding, a purging of ego, a baptism of grace in full view. While others whispered about your fall, heaven was shouting about your freedom. You were being delivered from the trap of public opinion. That fall was your flight, your true liberation. And then there were the times your vision was met with laughter, your dreams dismissed as foolishness. You thought you were misunderstood, but Jesus was training your heart to anchor in self-belief. You became a lighthouse, rooted and radiant, no longer swayed by the storms of external approval. His voice became louder than their doubt. You stopped asking for permission, because Jesus gave you validation. In this divine economy, pain was never wasted. Jesus stored every ache as holy investment. While others built kingdoms of gold, you were constructing a palace of spirit. Every sorrow became a brick, every tear a seed. Your soul became a sacred vault, and every moment you endured with faith became a deposit into your heavenly inheritance. Heaven operates not by chance but by divine accounting. For every second you chose faith over fear, for every step you walked through fire without losing your heart, the kingdom recorded it. Every sleepless night, every silent cry, every act of courage when you could have collapsed, all noted. The celestial ledger never missed a moment. And now the payout is near. You may not understand why peace has settled into places that once shattered you. But Jesus is showing you that those moments were not endings, they were beginnings in disguise. You no longer see pain as punishment, you see it as prophecy fulfilled. That peace you now feel is divine confirmation. It's your spirit recognizing that what once hurt you actually healed you. The very people who tried to destroy your spirit were unknowingly God's instruments. Their rejection was your redirection. Their cruelty was your spiritual curriculum. They thought they had power over you, but Jesus was using them to build you. They became the chisels in the hands of your Maker. Now, as your destiny unfolds and your spirit begins to radiate what it has always carried within, those same people will look on with confusion, maybe even fear. Not because you are vengeful, but because your rise is undeniable. They will see Jesus in your resilience, in your calm strength, in the radiant joy that was born from pain they caused. You were never a victim, you were always a vessel. So now, Jesus invites you to see yourself not as someone who barely made it, but as someone who triumphed with sacred grace. You didn't just endure, you evolved. You didn't just cope, you conquered. You didn't just get through, you got anointed. This is not the aftermath, it is the arrival. You are walking into the reward of every tear, every prayer, every moment you didn't give up when giving up would have been easier. Your scars are your spiritual riches, and the vaults of heaven are opening wide to pour out blessings your soul has already paid for. You didn't just walk through pain, you walked through it with Jesus. And that changes everything. There will come a time, deeply orchestrated by the hand of Jesus, when the very ones who once caused your suffering will be left bewildered, as though lost in a maze of confusion so thick, it will feel as though their own reasoning has turned against them, simply because they are unable to grasp how someone they tried to break is now standing tall, not only untouched but divinely elevated through the very pain they inflicted. In their limited perception, rooted in cause and effect logic, they will watch in silent torment as you flourish, not by denying your past but by embracing it completely, and it will fracture everything they believed about dominance, control, and strength. They will witness your life radiating not in spite of the wounds they gave you, but because of how Jesus used those wounds to carve something sacred, something indestructible within you, and that irony will echo in their minds like a question without an answer. Your scars, once meant to break you, now gleam with a sacred radiance. They are no longer hidden, but shine openly like the finest jewels, testaments to battles endured and victories secured under the sovereign covering of Jesus Christ. They will come to a chilling realization that in trying to shatter you, they unknowingly became the very tools Jesus used to sculpt you into the divine masterpiece you are becoming. They were not destroyers, but unknowing craftsmen refining what was already chosen. As the days unfold, you may feel a sudden pull to revisit old memories, to glance over the past. But understand this through the lens of Christ. This is not regression, this is divine accounting, a holy inventory that Jesus himself is initiating to show you just how far you've traveled through grace. It is time to shift your gaze upon your past wounds not with sorrow or shame, but with the discerning vision of one who recognizes that each injury purchased power, and Jesus was the one who paid that cost in full to multiply it in your soul. Pause, reflect, acknowledge, and bless every scar that has shaped you, for Jesus has turned them into sacred marks of your authority, each one a crown jewel in the kingdom he has prepared for you. The age of hiding, of shrinking back and minimizing your testimony, is over. Jesus is calling you to rise up, to wear your healing boldly, because your scars are no longer secrets. They are your spiritual signature of survival and ascension. They are not remnants of defeat. They are your divine endorsement, declaring that you were tested by fire and came out carrying the very flames that once tried to consume you, and Jesus walked with you through every furnace. You are now stepping into the next sacred chapter of your spiritual transformation, one where the false realities around you, the illusions that have long disguised themselves as truth, are beginning to unravel beneath your feet. You've sensed the instability of this world for far longer than most. Jesus gave you that spiritual radar so you could detect the fault lines while others danced blindly on crumbling ground, calling it stability. You felt the emptiness in their promises, the hollowness in their definitions of success, and the silent cry beneath their claims of happiness, because your spirit, anchored in Christ, could never resonate with a world built on deception. Jesus made your sensitivity your strength. He designed it as an alert system, finely tuned to the unseen shifts in the spiritual atmosphere, long before the cracks appeared in the physical world. You couldn't give your soul to their systems, not because you were broken, but because your soul had already pledged itself to a kingdom that does not perish, that does not lie, that does not fail, and that kingdom belongs to Jesus. While others decorated facades on floodplains, Jesus was guiding you to build an ark not of nails and timber, but one crafted from truth, conviction, and unwavering spiritual resilience. Every moment you rejected the easy road in favor of the one Jesus carved out for you, you laid down another plank. Each time you chose truth that made others uncomfortable, you sealed the seams tighter with holy obedience. Every single time your heart followed the whisper of Christ instead of the noise of the crowd, you were reinforcing a vessel meant to carry your destiny safely through the tides of collapse and confusion. Your entire journey, every storm weathered, every tear shed, every rejection felt, was not for nothing. Jesus has been constructing within you a ship of unshakable truth that will not sink, no matter how chaotic the world around you becomes. Now, the tremors are no longer distant, they are happening in real time. You see the social fabric unraveling, the fear in those who trusted dead systems, and the desperation in those whose power was built on sand. While they call it disorder, recession, collapse, Jesus calls it the clearing, the divine demolition of a structure that was never meant to last, because only in destruction can true rebirth begin. He is pulling the veil back. You can now see through their illusions, the false wealth, the prideful control, the hollow politics, and Jesus is revealing just how empty it has always been. Your role in this sacred upheaval is not to panic or try to hold up a kingdom built by human pride. Your mission, assigned by Jesus, is to stand firm as a lighthouse in the storm, a steady voice echoing the eternal truth of his reign. Your calm is not weakness, it is the fierce authority of someone whose anchor is Christ. Your peace is not passivity, it is power wrapped in surrender to the divine will of Jesus. And while the world spirals in fear, confusion, and instability, you, chosen and anointed by Jesus, will shine as a witness to the unshakable truth that light always outlasts darkness, that hope always rises from the rubble, and that the kingdom of Christ cannot be shaken. There is a powerful and sacred moment when Jesus begins to shape your reality from the inside out, shifting the very core of your inner world into a sanctuary of peace and divine stability. While the outside world plunges into confusion and chaos, what once appeared as absolute truth begins to dissolve into shadows. Jesus is now anchoring your soul in a higher reality, one that was once dismissed as fantasy but is now solidifying into the foundation of your spiritual kingdom. In this divine transformation, your inner landscape becomes luminous with the presence of Jesus, and his light begins to govern your thoughts, your peace, and your understanding. Jesus is the reason certain relationships are falling apart and people are drifting away. Those who are still tethered to the old illusions cannot coexist in the elevated reality Jesus is birthing within you. Their energies create a discord that interferes with the frequency Jesus is establishing in your life. These separations are not failures. They are spiritual recalibrations initiated by Jesus himself. He is clearing the field of your heart, removing every incompatible frequency, so your divine signal can resonate without interruption. You are now witnessing the collapse of illusions, as even those who once held power begin to crumble because their strength came from a decaying world, not from Christ. Jesus has prepared you for this divine unveiling. While others feel panic and confusion, you stand calm because you already mourned this world's deception in your darkest nights. Jesus walked with you through your grief, comforting you as you let go of an old reality. So now, when others are just beginning to taste the emptiness of falsehood, you are resting in the peace Jesus planted long ago. In the days ahead, pay close attention to what exits your life. Jesus is behind it. Do not grasp tightly to things that are falling apart. Whether it's a job, a relationship, or a belief, if it's dissolving, it is Jesus making space for the new. Every falling piece is part of his divine plan to prepare room for what truly belongs to you. What seems like loss is actually Jesus lifting the weight of burdens you never had to carry. The walls are falling, not to destroy you, but to liberate you, so you can walk freely into the new world Jesus has designed for your soul. Jesus is sending echoes from your future self, a version of you that has already been transformed through his love. This future self is not a distant dream, but a present reality infused with the victory Jesus already secured. The moments when you feel strength out of nowhere, when solutions arise in silence, when peace descends amidst noise, these are not coincidences. They are divine downloads from the version of you that Jesus has already crowned in glory. That future self is Jesus walking ahead of you, calling you forward, ensuring you never feel abandoned. When you collapsed in weakness, it was not just your strength. Jesus breathed into your lungs and whispered to your spirit, "Keep walking, child. I am waiting. I have already won." This holy transmission is why you feel torn between exhaustion and hope, because you are standing at the edge of two worlds, your foot still in the trial but your heart already basking in the dawn Jesus promised. Jesus is accelerating your manifestations. You are not merely wishing, you are aligning. He is tuning your energy to match the frequency of dreams fulfilled. Your future is not something you chase. It is something you download through divine alignment. Every desire you have is already fulfilled in Christ. You are simply allowing his frequency to reshape your present moment. And the people re-entering your life from the past are not responding to who you were. They sense Jesus in you now. They feel the power of your future echoing back into this moment. But Jesus is testing you. Will you revert to the old or stand firm in the identity he has declared over you? Your calm detachment is the signal that Jesus has completed a shift in you. You are ready for the promise. The past no longer owns you. Your dreams, beloved, are sacred conversations with Jesus. In the stillness of your sleep, he speaks with clarity. He offers visions, healing, warnings, and guidance. These nightly visits are not just dreams, they are surgeries of the Spirit. Jesus is removing what no longer serves you and upgrading your soul. Journal these dreams. Record his words. Listen deeply. For in these moments, Jesus is guiding you home. When confusion arises, call upon the voice of Jesus. The answer may not come in thunder, but it will arrive in a knowing, a pull, a whisper of direction. That subtle urge is Jesus leading you through the fog. He is not asking you to see the whole staircase, just to trust each step he illuminates. You are now undergoing a great spiritual untangling. Jesus is cutting away the cords of obligation, trauma, and inherited sorrow. All that has silently drained your spirit, every emotional leash, every unseen demand, is now being severed by his mercy. What may feel like abrupt changes, shocking separations, or sudden releases are actually divine deliverances. Do not interpret it as chaos. It is Jesus freeing you. When the people who once mattered seem to vanish, it is not abandonment. It is Jesus pulling you out of old patterns, ancestral wounds, and emotional traps. You will start to breathe deeper, hear your own voice again, and feel joy returning. That is Jesus returning you to yourself. You are also releasing generational pain. Jesus chose you to end what others could not. The grief and fear you carry sometimes are not even yours. They are echoes of a lineage that longed for healing. Through your obedience and endurance, Jesus is burning away that karma. He is turning your pain into power, your lineage's wounds into your gifts. Let the memories rise. Let the past play its final scene. You are not being haunted, you are being healed. Jesus is guiding you through the final release. Let go and know that every release is a blessing. You are being rethreaded into a single divine strand, one that leads directly to your purpose. Jesus is also awakening your divine sight. You are beginning to see beyond illusion. Your spiritual eyes are opening. You will see through people's masks. You will know intentions without words. Jesus is giving you discernment that protects you from deception and anchors you in truth. When you face decisions, don't just think, feel. Ask Jesus which path holds his peace. The one that expands your heart is the one he has blessed. With this sight, you will see the world differently. The noise of the world will become background static. Jesus will help you rise above it. You will walk through chaos untouched. You will no longer react. You will respond from a place of inner divinity. This is your training in sovereignty. And yes, it can feel lonely. To see what others cannot see, to know what others cannot understand. But remember, Jesus walks with you. He validates what the world cannot. And he has not called you to argue truth. He has called you to live it. You become a beacon just by being. You have arrived at the edge of your promise. Jesus did not ask you to earn this kingdom. He asked you to endure for it. And you did. You crossed deserts of doubt, climbed mountains of heartbreak, and still, you did not let go of his hand. Because of that, everything shifts. Now blessings chase you. Alignment finds you. Resources appear. Jesus is not rewarding you with things. He is rewarding you with a kingdom of peace, joy, and purpose. You are no longer begging. You are co-creating. You are no longer striving. You are seated. The throne you sit on is the centeredness of Christ within. Every challenge that approaches now is only a shadow of the past. You see it, but you no longer bow to it. Jesus has given you authority. He has clothed you in discernment and crowned you in confidence. You are immovable. And now the world will feel your light. You don't need to convince, teach, or prove. Your presence becomes the gospel. Your joy becomes the sermon. Your peace becomes the invitation. You are the evidence of what happens when someone fully walks with Jesus. Your existence becomes a sanctuary where others glimpse what is possible. You are a lighthouse. You are a gate. You are the embodiment of heaven touching earth. The battle is over. You remained faithful. You endured. And because of Jesus, you now walk in everything. Best wishes, beloved. Your kingdom has come.